What's up everybody? Welcome back to Vlogmas. There are 12 days, just 12 days until Christmas. So today I've got my 12 favorite glute exercises. Now these are not specifically the 12 best glute exercises that exist in the world. These are just my personal 12 favorite in order. So we'll start at 12, work our way to 1, and hopefully this will give you some new exercises to put into your lower body or glute specific workouts. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn post notifications on, and give this video a big thumbs up. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get started with my 12th favorite glute exercise. Okay, first exercise we have today, my 12th favorite exercise for the glutes is a banded lateral walk. So for this, I'm going to use a Brett Contreras hip thruster loop. That is the only band I really use. I like them. They're clothy, they're not so elasticy, they're not gonna just snap on you. And our number 12 exercise is the banded lateral walk. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate that for you. The banded lateral walk is a favorite exercise of mine because easy setup, minimal equipment, doesn't take up a lot of space. I do banded lateral walks as a part of my warm-up for every morning when I'm doing a glute or a lower body workout. With a little bounce in your knees or with a little bit of bend in your knees while you're doing that side-to-side walk, you're kind of keeping the movement and the motion continuous. And I feel like that really gives a good burn, really wakes my glutes up. My 11th favorite glute exercise right now is the Chacha or modified glute kickback. I like the Cha-Cha or the modified glute kickback, whatever you want to call that exercise, because that's a traditionally cable exercise that you can do without a cable. So just a band, which is great for me out in my garage gym. Some drawbacks are it does take a little bit of playing around to figure out exactly where you kind of want to aim your heels, so you're going both back and out to the side. Another drawback that I have found with this exercise is that if I've done too many glute exercises beforehand and I have too much of a glute pump already going on, I don't feel this exercise at all. And I think that's a waste of time to do an exercise that you cannot feel in the muscles that you should be using to complete that exercise. My 10th favorite glute exercise right now is the extra range of motion side lying leg abduction. A fun one to say. I like this extra range of motion side lying leg abduction, not just for its fun name, but because it's working the side of your glute, which personally is something I wouldn't mind working on. I think it's an easy setup because all you need is the bench, but I do think it can be a little bit tricky. And again, it's something you have to play around with to figure out where exactly you want your arm on the bench. This exercise looks easy and I thought it was going to be a lot easier at first, but it kind of comes out of nowhere and all of a sudden you cannot lift your leg up anymore. So I like any exercise that just kind of kicks me in the ass. My 9th favorite glute exercise right now is the deficit hip thrust with pause. I like this deficit hip thrust or foot elevated, shoulder elevated, glute bridge, whatever you want to call this, mainly because of the extra range of motion. Some drawbacks can be that I do tend to push the box away from me, but I could put like a kettlebell on the other side and kind of negate that a little bit. Otherwise, mostly I do love this exercise for the extra range of motion. That pause at the top really creates quite a burn, so that's also probably a huge selling point on this exercise. My 8th favorite glute exercise is a Bandit Abduction in the hinged position. Any abduction sort of move is going to be good for me in particular because when I squat, I have a tendency for my knees to collapse. So this is reinforcing and making me stronger at pulling my knees out, which is obviously where we want our knees when squatting. This is an easy exercise to set up. Again, all you need is a band. The biggest tip I would give you is just to really slide your hips back when you go into that hinged pattern. My 7th favorite glute exercise is the deficit reverse lunge. I like this exercise because I like that deep stretch from standing on top of a 45-pound plate and making it a deficit reverse lunge. I like that this is a lunge that is a squat pattern and not so much a traditional thrust pattern. So there's a little bit more than like just working on your glutes. Easy to set up, easy to feel. If you know how to do a lunge, you can do this. So there's no learning curve at all. My 6th favorite glute exercise is a seated bandit abduction, leaning back. So again, we have an abduction exercise, which, as I've already told you guys, is really good for me specifically and my own personal problems. I like seated rather than standing because that hinged position can be a little bit hard to ensure that you're in. It's a little bit safer, I would say, to be sitting down. Not like this is an inherently unsafe or dangerous kind of exercise at all. Sitting down, I also feel like I can do more and push through that burn, so I get a bigger booty burn going. Just something I like. We've now reached my top 5 favorite glute exercises. Stay tuned because number 1 is probably not what you think. My 5th favorite glute exercise is a back squat. I like squats because they're a strength exercise. They're more than just working your glutes. It's about getting stronger as a whole. That is something that you can get from squats. Most people are taught or are introduced to the squat when first learning how to lift. So this is a natural exercise for you to get into. Lots of carryover to powerlifting, lots of carryover to sport, and that is why the squat is my number 5 glute exercise. My 4th favorite glute exercise is the sumo squat. I am still relatively new to sumo deadlifting and I'm working on getting them to be a little bit technically better, but because of the position that you're in, that sumo wide squat, because of that wide stance that you're in, the sumo position, you are getting more glutes than you are with a traditional deadlift. It also feels a bit safer, at least personally, than a traditional deadlift. So I'm really loving the sumos right now, especially for my glutes. Sumos are also a great strength exercise and will work towards or will help you actually get stronger. So again, this isn't just glute specific, it's glutes, but with a huge benefit of strength, or strength with an added bonus of being really good for the glutes. My 3rd favorite glute exercise is the hip thrust. The hip thrust does have a lot of carryover to sport, will help you sprint faster. I don't know how much sprinting you're really doing though. It is proven to be the most or have the best glute activation and be able to help your glutes grow, but it's not my favorite exercise to set up, break down, or even perform. That box, or even the hip thruster, if you got an official hip thruster, does dig into your back a little bit, and that's uncomfortable. Loading a bar that's on the ground and then unloading it is also kind of cumbersome. I mean, that's kind of a silly complaint, but it is what it is. That is the exercise. So I like it because it does work. It definitely works. I don't like it because it's not the most comfortable. My second favorite glute exercise is the high step up. I like the step up because it is a single leg exercise. I like that extra stretch from it being a high step up. It's a lot less quad because of that and a lot more glute. I don't really need or want a lot of quad work. A lot of people, when they're working on their glutes, are not looking to increase the size of their quads. So this is a squat-like pattern without having too much quad emphasis. Now for my favorite, my number one glute exercise. My favorite glute exercise right now and for a long time has been the glute bridge. The glute bridge is really easy to set up. All you do is get on the ground. It doesn't have the same sort of pain or discomfort level as the hip thrust. On the other hand, you do have to get on the ground, which, especially if you have a garage gym, that might not be the number one thing that you're trying to do. You do get a little bit dirty. But for myself, I much prefer the lack of setup, and it's a lot easier for me to take my quads out of this exercise, whereas with the hip thrust, sometimes I end up still accidentally using my quads. Okay, that's gonna wrap it up for my 12 days of glutes, my top 12 favorite glute exercises. Leave a comment down below, let me know what your favorite glute exercises are. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you guys later.